Welcome to the AdTech Forum. Today's episode is all about outcomes we experience through digital media. This is part of our outcome series sponsored by Attain. Today, we're really excited to get started with our guest, Tina Wilson.
Tina Wilson is the Group General Manager at Nielsen, overseeing their analytics business and partnerships. Her team helps media buyers and sellers grow with data-driven insights. With 30 years of experience, Tina is also the co-chair of the World Economic Strategy Officer Forum for Media, Sports, and Entertainment, an advisory board member at Point Loma University, and a guest lecturer at several U.S. colleges. A dedicated mentor, she sponsors Nielsen, NGen, and Native Business Resource Groups, focusing on education, vocation, community service, and advocacy. In 2022, Tina was recognized as one of AdMonster's and AdExchanger's top women in media for her commitment to mentoring. I'm super excited to have you here, Tina. Tina, welcome to the AdTech Forum.
Thank you so much. And I'm super thrilled to be here with AdTech Forum. Excited for today's conversation.
Awesome. Tina, you have such amazing experience within our ecosystem. We're going to get started with question number one. With more e-commerce platforms and social commerce continuously growing, how do you think traditional advertising is going to change to actually meet the needs of online consumers?
Yeah, it's a great question. I think overall brands are continuing to evolve, right? They want to continue to build the connection points with their consumers, and that means being dynamic. And so it's about meeting consumers where they are. And I think that traditional advertising and the rise in the digital channels and even in social commerce, it's all about that. It's about being where the consumers are at and how they're engaging with content and with devices to be able to reach them. So I think there's space, right? There's space for traditional media as there is for evolving and emerging channels. And it's figuring out who plays what role where in terms of the type of advertising and making sure that it matches where the consumers are at in the consumer journey and their decisioning or their recommendations, whatever the outcome they're looking to achieve of making sure it stays and evolves with the way that the consumers are and their mindsets are. So I think it's a counterplay between the two.
Great response. As you were talking about the consumer journey and the experience, how does commerce data help measure and optimize online media campaigns for the best conversion and actual ROI?
Yeah, I mean, it's another data point, right? And it's an important one. I think, Again, if you take it from the lens of being centered where consumers are and the consumer behaviors, it means you have to have online and you have to have offline because consumers shop in those same channels. And so having the commerce data is another signal of what actually happened, right? And that's what's most important. If you look how people spend their time, how they spend their money, and how they're influenced, you need to see what the linkage is between the events and the activities that a marketer put forward and what the consumer did about it. If you don't know the impact, it kind of doesn't matter. So commerce data is just another body, a very important body of evidence towards what happened after there was an investment made to reach and influence a consumer and what action, did they take. So it becomes a material input incrementally valuable to what you would have if it was just kind of offline data or I went to the store and bought. So it completes the puzzle of the consumer buying journey.
Tina, we talk about how robust the data is in the commerce space and how it's used to boost online media strategies overall. Do you have any examples that you could share with us today on how commerce data itself can be used in media strategies?
Yeah, I mean, again, it's the absolute linkage between that being an outcome variable, right? If you look at how marketers globally are spending their budgets, they're looking for performance marketing, they're looking for brand building. So it plays a role to know both the short and the long-term impacts of the investments that they're making. So it is a more complete story. If you look at, again, the platforms that are really driving an incremental amount of the sales, they have data about consumption. They have data about the patterns for, how people buy, how far they get in their decision making. So there's a lot more granularity, which if you think of it, it all ties in this great circle of knowing more about the people who are going to the places, when and how they make decisions, how their content gets fed to them for their recommendations. So it really threads right through that entire process.
When you think about commerce data in particular and the future of platforms in our industry, how do you feel commerce data could be integrated into online media platforms, and how do you think this will change the future of digital advertising?
Well, I think if we go, let's narrow in even maybe just for social commerce, right? Because if I think about where people are spending their time, there's an increased reliance in social media as a way to go beyond just connecting with people that you knew. Right now, more people get their news there. More people get their product recommendations there. They're heavily influenced on what others that they may never have access to recommend for them to buy. So it's an even more important component. And again, it just threads into where the investments are made and where, what is known about the buying universe that's part of the platform. So I think you're going to see a continued increase in the investment. You see marketers globally spending probably 2/3 or more of their budgets in the digital space now. And you're going to continue to see that increase because they get the ROI. They can see that it's working. When we talk about ROI on social, right? The ROI for that is 30 to 40% higher than other channels to be able to reach and influence consumers who are on those platforms. And it gives access in two ways that we didn't have before digitally, right? One is geography. You can be exposed to products from anywhere around the world and still make the purchase in the same way. The ease of that transaction is there. And then think of the beauty of this for direct to consumer brands. Like it really changes the landscape for the competitive ecosystem for a brand looks different because their competitive set is broader and it can be, different business models as well. So I'm particularly intrigued about the social commerce side just because of the change in consumer behavior, rooted in that as a platform for so many new use cases, emerging use cases, and the value of that and the ease of that to be able to make purchases.
That leads us to this next question, which is so relevant based on what you were saying about D2C, social commerce. Within the social commerce and influencer marketing ecosystem, considering how much both are just continuously increasing, how does commerce data influence consumer behavior and actual preferences amongst consumers for what they're going and buying?
Yeah, I think, again, it feeds into the preferences, right? So what you see is going to be your content choices. It's going to be the data about you, the data that's extrapolated about people like you, where you're likely to receive information that's useful to you. It's going to continue to build that profile about you and having more of the influence data that's coming towards the things that you're likely to convert on, right? If you think of it the same way as a sales funnel, it's going to be more opportunities at the upper funnel of what you might be exposed to as there's more refinement to your patterns and your data, which is fed by what you actually did or that outcomes data. It's then going to further refine what gets fed to you, what you're likely to convert on, what you're likely to take an action on. And I'll use a recent example. I was in an airport line yesterday about to board a flight, and I'm getting quite a number of refined search content recommendations coming my way because of some life events that are in my life, whether it's about renovations and buying plants, whether it's about, wedding planning for my daughter, just travel at large. And in the span of just waiting to board the flight, I was able to make a purchase for a piece of clothing and buy some drops that apparently are going to save my orchids. And signed up for a UK tutorial about learning how to decorate cupcakes in a new way. So again, just the thought of constant access to things that are relevant to me. Right now, there's patterns of, did I take an action? Did I sign up for a course? Did I make a purchase? Did I share the link with somebody else? Did I click the shop now? Like, it's so easy to engage in the platform. You can only expect that that's going to increase. And I think the data that we have right at Nielsen with our annual marketing report, and there's certainly other bodies of work that are out there, show the patterns. They show that people are investing in these channels. They show that they match where consumers are at and what they want. And they show the effectiveness with the ROIs being stronger. So you have more budget going to match more people, spending more time, taking more actions. It all kind of fits. And I think we're just going to continue to see, that level of investment.
Tina, thank you for being here today. That actually brings us to the end of this episode of the AdTech Forum, sponsored by Attain. We've covered a wide range of topics today with our guest, Tina. Stay tuned for future episodes, and please follow us on LinkedIn and YouTube. Again, on behalf of Jeremy and I, thank you so much for being here today.
Thank you so much for having me.
Thanks, Tina.
Thanks.